So the Texans are off this week. They're on their bye week, and I'm low key kind of happy about it because obviously you got to get healthy. The Texans have a lot of players that are banged up, a lot of players that are straight up injured that should be back after the bye week. Like I said in my recap video, I am a little bit concerned that the bye week might mess up the momentum and the Texans, get off the hot streak. So hopefully it doesn't. But so far the Texans are 6-3. We all know that. And in my prediction video for the season, I think I dropped it during preseason, I believe. And in that video, I had the Texans going into the bye week at 6-3, but the losses were very different. I had them losing to the Giants, the Jaguars, and the Broncos. But, somehow the Texans, after that terrible 0-3 start, they've won 6 in a row. Doesn't matter how you do it, they did it, because in the NFL, it's hard to win 6 games in a row. Not many teams can do it. The fact that the Texans have done it, that's pretty impressive. Now, after the bye week, I think it gets easier. I think the schedule is indeed easier, and if you thought the schedule was already easy, then it's about to get a whole lot easier. First, it starts off with Washington. Washington is a pretty good team, but they're definitely a very beatable team. After that, you get 3 home games in a row. You play, I'm not sure the exact order, but I know you play the Colts, the Browns, and the Titans. 3 games in a row at home. Seriously. And then after that, you go to Philly, followed by going to New York to play the Jets. And then you come back home and finish the season off versus Jacksonville. So, the schedule is really favoring the Texans. If the Texans finish with a record anything below 11-5, it will be a disappointing season. Because the way this team is playing, the way this team can play, the way this team will get healthier, this team should be 11-5, 12-4. Might I even say it? 13-3. They can really do it. The teams they're playing really aren't all that good, honestly. The only team I could really see as a concern is Philly, and Philly hasn't really been all that impressive this year. They really have to, I guess, catch fire in order for them to really be scary, because right now Philly has just been, that Super Bowl hangover, just getting on by, a win here, a win there, sitting at 4-4. Like, yes, they're the Super Bowl champions, but they're not that same team from last year. They're very beatable. So this Texans team better have double-digit wins by the end of the season. 9-7, I just do not see it. Like, seriously, if the Texans go 9-7, that means very bad things happened. And by very bad things, I mean straight up injuries. Because there's no way this team goes 9-7. Anyways, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to, I guess, grade the team so far, how they've been this season. Now, obviously, we already know 6-3 after 0-3. We've heard it like a billion times already. All from the media, from me, from anywhere. That seems to be like the talk when they talk about the Texans. Whoa, this team started 0-3 and now they're 6-3. Okay, but I'm going to grade the team by position, or I guess by unit, when we get to the defense. And keep in mind, these grades include the 0-3 start. I'm not just, going to grade them how they've been doing lately. I'm grading them how they've been doing throughout the whole season. Starting with the coaching. The coaching, I give them a B+ grade. I know a lot of people early on were mad about the coaching, but I mean, it wasn't the coaching, it was player execution. Deshaun was still not himself. He was banged up, and offensive line early on got reshuffled. You had, what's his name, Martinez Rankin playing left tackle, Julian Davenport playing right tackle, and it was just terrible. So you can't really blame the coaching for that. I mean, the only loss I would really blame coaching on is the Titans loss. The team was just unprepared, uninspired. Special teams allowed that touchdown. So yeah, I think the coaching staff has done a pretty good job, and people that criticize Bill O'Brien will tell you otherwise, but I mean, O'Brien's done a good job. I mean, how many coaches can climb out of an 0-3 hole? I mean, seriously. You got Jacksonville over there. They lost 3 in a row, and after they lost their 3rd in a row, seems like the players are done trusting each other, and looks like Doug Marrone probably lost the locker room. It's pretty easy to lose the locker room in the NFL. The fact that O'Brien didn't lose it speaks volume about him and about his coaching staff. So, now let's move on to the quarterback. Deshaun Watson. I give him a B. I think early on that Patriots game was yikes. It was terrible. I thought that was Deshaun's worst game up until he played versus Buffalo, but Buffalo was at least excusable because Buffalo, he was straight up playing with a collapsed lung, and I believe it was broken ribs, might have been bruised. I forgot, but early on, Deshaun wasn't playing good. He didn't play that good versus the Patriots. He didn't play that good versus the Giants, versus the Titans, versus the Bills. He was playing recklessly versus the Cowboys, even though he was pretty much treading the Cowboys all the way down the field, a top-ranked secondary in the league. The fact that he played so reckless in that game, diving head first for a touchdown, yeah, I loved it. That he was, competing, but at the end of the day, Deshaun, it's his health that matters. So he should have really been protecting himself. Deshaun, these past, I'd say 3 weeks, has really improved a lot. And I think he'll keep improving. I don't think by the end of the year he'll be a B. He'll probably be an A. But as of right now, you have to include those bad games as well. Hopefully down the line, as we keep winning, hopefully, whatever happened early on in the season is forgotten. Next group, the running backs. I give the running backs, I'm going to go with a C+, man. Lamar Miller and Alfred Blue, they have their moments where they do good, but then they have their moments where they're not so good. Their vision is bad. They're just off sometimes. I mean, the first 2 weeks of the season, week 1 and week 2, they were doing a pretty good job running the ball. And then they kind of struggled running the ball for about probably 6 weeks straight. And then they got back to it against Jacksonville and Miami. And then they struggled again versus Denver. But I feel like the Denver game was more on Denver being good defensively, even though the stats indicate that Denver isn't that good of a team stopping the run. I do think Denver came into the game trying to stop the Texans' run game and not just get run all over, because in the NFL, the worst thing you can do defensively is let the opposing team run all over you. That is the most frustrating thing, and it just kills your morale. So if you stop the run, you have a better chance of winning. I feel like that's what Denver did against the Texans. Can't really blame the O-line or the running backs for that. Now the tight ends. I give the tight ends a C-. And this really, really sucks because I feel bad for Jordan Thomas, because if it was just Jordan Thomas, the only tight end on the roster, this would probably be an A. But unfortunately, he's not the only tight end on the roster. you have to also grade Ryan Griffin and Jordan Akins. So this is a flat out C-. Sucks for Jordan Thomas. I feel like he's really gonna be someone that's good. And shout out to Ogdug Scout, Rising Phoenix, my best bud. He called this a very long time ago. The second Jordan Thomas got drafted, he straight up said Jordan Thomas is gonna be good. And so far, Jordan Thomas has looked very good. Now, the wide receivers. A+. I mean, you got D-Hop doing D-Hop things before Fuller went down. You had Fuller doing Fuller things. They brought in Kiki, and Kiki was doing Kiki things. And unfortunately, Will Fuller did get hurt, but now they brought in Demaryius Thomas, and I think Demaryius Thomas was a great addition. Obviously, he's not going to be as big as a playmaker as Will Fuller. He's not going to be able to take the top off a defense, but he is a guy that you can definitely have there to keep the chains moving in the middle of the field. He's a big-bodied guy in the red zone. I think it was a great addition. Now for the offensive line. I'd give the offensive line a B. And over these, probably the win streak, when the win streak started, it probably would have been an A. I think it all really started against the Cowboys, where Martinez Rankins got benched. You had Kendall Lamb come in at right tackle and Julian Davenport at left tackle. Obviously, the injury occurred to Seantrell Henderson early on. That pretty much messed up their plan. So that sucks, but I'd give them a B. They've been improving in the run game, surprisingly, and passing-wise, they've been, I'd say, they have their mess-ups sometimes, but I feel like they do a good job protecting Deshaun Watson, even though they've allowed, I want to say, 32, I don't think it's at the 30s, I think it might be, still in the 20s, even though they've allowed a lot of sacks, is what I'm trying to say. They aren't to blame all the time. I mean, there's been times where Deshaun Watson just straight up holds onto the ball way too long. There's also been times where it's a straight up coverage sack. So all the sacks aren't on the O-line. I think the O-line is improving. Now, the one thing I will say is something I've already said actually before. I want to say it was in last week's video, is I think Greg Mack should be the starting right guard, and I think Zach Fulton should be the starting left guard. That means Sunil Kilimetti should be benched, and I don't think it's a knock on Kilimetti. I just think Greg Mack and Zach Fulton are both better players than Sunil Kilimetti, and Zach Fulton has played left guard, center, and right guard over in KC, and he performed well all over the interior offensive line. So if anyone has to move, it'll probably have to be Zach Fulton. But I don't think the team will do it unless, injuries start to pile up there. But so far, the offensive line, it's a B, and hopefully it keeps on improving. Now, for the front seven. The front seven, I give it an A. I mean, you got JJ and Jadeveon Clowney completely wrecking games from time to time. You have one of the better run-stopping units in the NFL. I mean, seriously, they held Ezekiel Elliott to 50 yards. And they held one of the top rushing attacks in the NFL, which is the Broncos, to 70 yards on the ground. So anytime you can do that, that's really impressive. Coverage-wise, the linebackers last week versus Denver looked bad, and early on in the season it looked bad. But again, our coverage guys are Zach Cunningham and Dylan Cole. So Zach Cunningham will be back, so that will get better moving forward. And I honestly have no idea if Dylan Cole comes back. If he does come back, then they will get even better. Now for the secondary. Secondary, I'll give them a B. And going into the season, I really thought this secondary was going to be abysmal. But, man, they've looked surprisingly not good, but I'd say above average, better than I really thought they were going to be. I mean, Tyrann Mathieu was a great addition back there. Justin Reed is looking like he should have gone in the first round. Luckily, we got him in third. And then Kareem Jackson, my God, dude. Kareem Jackson, at the moment, is our best DB. The guy, you line him up at safety, he balls out. You line him up at corner, he balls out. Nickel corner, he balls out. No matter where you line him up, he balls out. I mean, we have like 4 safeties, man. Kareem's a safety. Tyrann Mathieu's a safety. Justin Reed's a safety. Andre Howell's a safety. But due to injuries to the corner position, our safeties have had to play everywhere, man. So our secondary is pretty much at the moment being carried by the safeties. I mean, Colvin was doing a good job when he was healthy, but I think we lost him week 4 versus the Colts. So he's been out for what, 5-6 weeks, I believe. And J-Joe has probably been the most consistent corner, surprisingly. I mean, he's like 60 years old, and he's been doing, I'd say, pretty good. The only game where he didn't do good was that game against the Colts where he got shredded by everyone that was pretty much lining up against him. But other than that, I think Joseph has done a pretty solid job. But regardless, you do have to start looking for a replacement because Joseph is 34, I believe. So, you know, he's not going to be around forever. But yeah, I do think the secondary has really, I guess, surprised me so far this season. And hopefully, with players coming back from injury, Aaron Colvin, Jonathan Joseph, Andre Howell, things can start trending upwards. And the last thing, special teams. A+. Oh, wow, dude. Like, seriously, who would have thought that a Texans secondary unit would ever be good, you know? Like, I feel like the special teams has been bad since the team became a thing, and so far I think the only thing that's lacking from the special teams is a kick or punt return touchdown. They've pretty much done great in coverage. They do have a few mess ups every now and then. For example, the Tennessee special teams touchdown, the face mask penalty last week versus the Broncos, but for the most part I do think special teams has been a positive for the Texans this season, and hopefully it continues that way moving forward the rest of the season, the second half of the season. But yeah, that is my grade on the positions so far on the season. The team as a whole, I'd probably give them a B+ grade. I mean, 6 wins in a row. That's hard to do. Now, what can the Texans do to get better? Well, man, honestly, just have the young guys keep improving, get Demaryius Thomas up to speed, get healthy, and you should start winning games by blowouts now, because like I said, the schedule is easier. You should be blowing out these teams coming up. Maybe not Washington, but I mean the Colts, the Jaguars, Titans, Browns. You should be blowing out teams in the second half of the season. And yeah, just gotta get healthy. You get a lot of guys back. You get Kiki back. You get Cunningham back. Joseph back. Colvin back. Andre Howell back. Maybe you get Dylan Cole back. I don't know yet. That's just wishful thinking. But yeah, that's all I really have for you guys today. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.